Hello and welcome to Easy Projects. So in this video we will try to make a new extruder for the 3D printer. And I showed this drawing in a previous video. I want to make the new extruder so we have some cooling fins in the side here so we can attach a fan. And perhaps also one to the other side if it is necessary. I don't know if I'll make the bottom part again. I have that already from the old extruder, but it doesn't really take that long to make it. So there will be a few challenges with this extruder compared to the old one, but hopefully that will make this one work. I want to have a Teflon tube inside here. So this is about 1.8 millimeter internal diameter, and the filament is 1.75 millimeters. The problem is the outside diameter is 0.15 inches or 3.86 millimeters. Well, I read 0.15 before. 0.152 inches or 3.86 millimeters. And the closest drill that I have is a 4 millimeter, so there will be a bit of play in the hole there. I can put some silicone around it to keep it fixed in place, so hopefully that will not be a problem. But we need to drill that hole down into here, or perhaps from the bottom side. Then we need a 6 millimeter thread in the bottom of this part, and we need to make the 4 millimeter hole in the rod that connects the bottom part here also. And these two 4 millimeter holes have to line up. For the rod I'm planning to use a 6 millimeter bolt that I chopped the head off, so the tube will be sitting partly inside this and partly up in this part here. Now I don't know if I can drill the hole precise enough, because a 6 millimeter bolt with a 4 millimeter hole in it doesn't leave very much at the side here. I think I'll start by making this part, so we can see if it is possible with a 6 millimeter bolt. And I forgot to say, the other end of this bolt needs to have a 1.8 millimeter hole, so that when the filament exits the hole in this tube, it will continue down in here. And that also has to line up pretty precisely with this hole. So now that I got some better equipment than last time, it should hopefully be easier. To make this part, I'll be using the color block that my brother made for me, and we'll be holding it in a 6 millimeter color. We'll start by squaring the end off with an end mill, and then we can drill the small hole and then flip it around and drill the big hole. I should also mill a couple of flats on here so I can use a wrench instead. I never really got around to that. So the colored block just reaches across the waist of the vise here. But the problem is that the vise is not completely square. So you can see the block is square, but it still wiggles in the vise. I know that the bottom of the vise here is almost square to the machine, so it must be this jaw that is out of squareness. But I can't slip a piece of paper in between, so it's not really that much. I think we'll be fine, and we'll try and get our holes made. And now we can use the edge finder to find these two edges, and then we can find the center of the block by moving in half the distance. So we got the 1.8mm drill bit and a 2 to 1mm collet. So I tightened the quill a little bit so there's no play in it, and I'm drilling about 1/2 mm at a time, then pulling up the drill so it doesn't get stuck in there and breaks. So I just cleaned everything and now we're ready to do the other end. I should probably have pulled this out of the collet and milled it on the other side, but I just ground it square on the end instead. There's a little bit missing over here, but it should be good enough. I probably shouldn't buy these center drills from China next time. It just completely shattered. But I kinda knew they would because my brother also tried them and he said the first time you drill in steel with them, you're gonna have a whole bunch of them. We still have another try in the other end though. So that's how it looks now. And I already broke one of the smaller ones also. It should be enough to get us started with the 4mm drill though. I'll just make sure there's no hardened chips in the hole. So the plan is to get as little heat as possible to transfer up through this bolt here, hence why we hollowed it out so much. It would have been easier to take a 7 or 8mm bolt, but then we would have more heat getting transferred. And also this Teflon tube helps to insulate the plastic against the heat also, so it only melts in this portion down here. So the nozzle and this bolt will be screwed into the bottom part here from each side, and they will mate up in the middle. And we want as much heat as possible transferred into this point around here, and as little as possible to travel up through here. So I just tried to pass a piece of filament through here. It does go through the hole, but right in the bottom of this 4mm hole there must be a tiny little burr or something, because it doesn't go into the 4mm part. I can force it in there, but I don't really want it to be like that. I don't have a 1.9mm drill bit, but I can make it 2mm instead. The first part of the nozzle here is 2.3mm anyway, so I guess it won't make that much of a difference. I still have the cullet block in the machine, so I can just set it up and then drill this part up to 2mm. So I got the hole increased to 2mm, and now we can start working on this part. I got an aluminium block here that's been milled on 4 sides, and that is 25mm. So I'll just use the mill to chop a chunk off, because I don't have a bandsaw or a power hacksaw or something like that, and it takes forever to cut this by hand. So I'll use a 6mm roughing end mill, and I'll just cut through this, make it a little oversized so we can go and clean up both sides afterwards. And then we can start milling away this material and cut the fins and whatnot. So now we will clean this side up with a 12mm end mill. So we still need to take 1.5mm off the other side. So we still need to take 0.8mm. So it's 0.05 of a millimeter over. I think I can live with that. So now I'll just touch it and then I'll zero this axis and we can move in the 25mm we need in this direction. It doesn't really like going in that direction. We are really supposed to do it this direction, but it sounds better also, so we might as well just do that. So we'll have to take another 5.6mm. So we should have around 15mm here. Well, 14.5, that's good enough. But we also have a little bit less than 10 here, because the part is not 25. So that'll be okay. And this part should be hopefully around 25. Yeah, it's close enough. So now we need to drill these two holes and make the hole through here. We have to tap both sides. This has to be 5mm, this has to be 6mm, and the hole in the middle has to be 4mm. Then we just need to cut the fins so we can get the heat away. I just went and verified that the distance between these two holes are 15mm and they should be 4mm holes. And this one just needs to be centered on this face, so 7.5mm from this edge and 12.5 from the other. So I forgot to brag about the side, that was actually the size, but it's from here we need to make the two holes that mount it onto the printer. So we have 25mm minus the 15 for the hole spacing. That leaves us 10mm, so each hole should be 5mm from the edge. Hopefully that's correct. I won't bother with the center drill because if I use one of the 4mm ones, the collet chuck will hit this before we drill any holes, so else I would have to change collet again. So the next hole should be right here. So that's those two holes. So to drill the other hole through here, I had to be a little creative because I could of course rest it on the side that's currently on the top against two parallels and that would be perfectly square. But then the drill couldn't reach all the way through because this piece down here would hit the collet chuck. But when I did that I couldn't clamp it square without having the parallel moved up here, as you see. I could of course have taken some smaller parallels, that way I could drop it down a little bit further before it hit the table. But this also works. So now we just have to find the two edges, move in, drill the hole all the way through. Then we have to drill the tap size for a 6mm on this side, and then the tap size for a 5mm on the other side. I think that's 4.2 or something. For the 6mm threads we will drill a 5mm hole, and I should probably use the drill chuck. I only need to drill one more and then we'll have to use the collet chuck again. So if we drill 8mm deep, that should be enough. I'll just start the threading with the machine and then I'll do the rest by hand. So that's that side. So on this side we need 4.2mm, but I don't have a drill that size, so I'll use 4.5 instead. So, like that. We only need like 0.5 centimeter for this part. And now we'll tap it 5mm. So let's see if that's enough. Yep, I got it a little bit at an angle, but not much. And the 4mm tube fits nicely. And this one can fit. And I can press the tube into it, so everything seems to line up good enough. I just need to tap this hole a little bit more by hand though, so I'll get the 6mm tap and we will do that. So that's all the way to the bottom. So now we just need to make the fins and the holes for the screws for the fan. So I got one of the fans here, and we need to make some fins in this so the air can get through and cool it down. I plan to leave 5mm in each side for the screws, and then I can make 3 slots spaced 3mm apart with a 3mm end mill, and that will give us 3 slots. And I don't really have anything smaller than that, so I have a 2.5, but that wouldn't really do any difference. Then we could make some into this side as well if we wanted to, but I'll try this first and see if it works. So I'll just take a millimeter each time. So that's one side done. Then we just need the other one. So here we have it, we are almost done. I went and held the fan on here, and then I slipped a drill into the hole and tapped it, and after that I just marked them up with a punch so we can drill 2 holes for each fan. So I think we're done with this part. The last one here, the actual hot end, we can just reuse that from the old one. There's nothing wrong with this really, and it seemed to work fine. The only thing I wanted to do differently was to make this a little bit longer, then make a slit in here. And then instead of a set screw, I would have it go all the way through so we could tighten this like a clamp. So now we can try and put it together and see if it works. I'm using a new nozzle, by the way, because something did seem to get stuck in the other one. And I did wash and clean the parts very good, by the way. I'll just taper the inside of this tube a little bit where the filament comes down so that it doesn't catch the edge. And it's not much, it's just a little bit. So we'll slide that into here. And then we will screw it into this part. Oh well, this part wasn't nearly strong enough. Or else I just tightened it too much. I just tightened it with 2 fingers though, but it just cracked right here and yep. Well, that kinda sucked. Maybe I should have been a little more careful. I'll go and make one in stainless steel instead. That'll be a little bit stronger, and then it will be good enough. Else I have to use a bigger one, and I don't have any 7mm, only 8mm, and that will be too big, so I think it'll work just fine with a stainless steel version. So I'll just go and make that. I'll do exactly as with the other one. So I got the new stainless steel one made. And let's see, yep, it goes in like this. Onto here. I'll try not to over tighten it this time. And it actually lines up. Now I'll just measure the distance down to the Teflon tube with the calipers, and it's 4.7mm. And the distance from there to there is just a tiny bit less than that. That's around 4.6. I'll just pull off the O-ring to make sure it gets all the way down there. because we don't want the Teflon tube to lift down here. It is really tight in this middle hole, so I don't think it's going anywhere. But so the fans should be able to go on here. Maybe I should put it the correct way around. So there we have it, one finished extruder, and it does look a hell of a lot better than the old one. So is it worth spending half a day making an extruder like this when you can buy a day-head extruder for like 40 bucks? Well, if you look at it that way, then no, because your time should be worth more than that. But I did it for the challenge and because I wanted to do it myself. So let's try and put a piece of filament in there. And it definitely goes all the way to the end. So at least for now there's nothing blocking it, but we will try this in my other video, the DIY 3D printer 8, where I'm installing the extruder. So you can see it in action in that video. Hopefully it will work, but no guarantees. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and if you liked it, please give it the thumbs up on YouTube. And I hope to see you in the next video. See you.